You ever felt your skin burn from the inside out? Not because of fire, but because of shame. I did. And the burn wasn't just in my head. It was carved into me, etched in ink across my chest. Where I thought permanence meant love, I got her face tattooed right above my heart. A bold, stupid declaration that she was mine, and I was hers. I thought it was romantic. Thought it was proof that we were different from all the couples who broke apart over small things. Meanwhile, she was sneaking around, sitting in a tattoo shop, with her skirt pulled up, and her thigh exposed, letting some artist press his name into her skin, thick black letters, that screamed her loyalty to him. That's how betrayal hit me, not with a text, not with whispers, but with ink, permanent, undeniable ink. I should start earlier though, before the tattoo, before the discovery. When you're in love, you build this little bubble around yourselves. You think the world can't pop it. I lived in that bubble. Every conversation, every plan, every lazy Sunday morning felt like bricks laid on the foundation of something indestructible. I was so sure of her that I ignored the little cracks. The nights she turned away in bed, scrolling on her phone with that sly smile she wouldn't explain. The weekends she suddenly had plans with friends, but came home smelling like a bar. I knew her friends didn't even like. I noticed, but I didn't let myself know. You get what I mean? There's a difference between noticing and knowing. The tattoo idea came from me. I was drunk on the thought of forever. And one night, while we were curled up on the couch, I said, "You know what would be crazy romantic? If I got your face tattooed on me." I expected her to laugh, maybe roll her eyes. Instead, she leaned in, kissed my jaw, and whispered, "You'd really do that for me?" I grinned like a fool. Of course I would. And she smiled, a smile that looked like love, but looking back, was probably just satisfaction. A week later, I was in the chair. The buzzing needle sank into my skin, and every sting felt like proof of devotion. When it was done, I peeled back the bandage and saw her there. Her eyes, her smile, her face staring back at me from my own chest. My heart swelled. I thought, this is it. We're unbreakable now. Except ink doesn't stop lies. Fast forward a month. It was summer, hot enough that clothes stuck to your skin. We were at the beach with some friends, and she'd worn shorts. Too short if I'm being honest, but I didn't care. I loved showing her off. We were sitting on the sand when one of the guys nudged me, lowered his sunglasses, and muttered, "Ah, Nan, you see that?" I followed his gaze. At first I thought it was just the edge of a bruise, or maybe some smudge of paint from one of her hobbies. But no, as the sunlight hit just right, I saw it clearly: letters. Black, bold, unmistakable letters, inked into her thigh. Not initials, not a symbol, a name. His name. The air left my lungs, like I'd been punched. My chest tightened, not just around the tattoo I'd gotten for her, but deeper, like the ink itself was choking me. She caught me staring, and tugged her shorts down quickly. But it was too late. My world had already cracked open. Later that night, I confronted her. My voice shook, my hands shook, even my legs felt weak. "Whose name is on your thigh?" She froze. Then, like the coward she is, she tried to laugh it off. "It's nothing, just a stupid dare with some friends." A dare? I ripped my shirt open, shoving my chest at her, pointing at the portrait of her face inked permanently over my heart. "You think this is a joke? I carved you into my skin, and you're out there branding yourself with another man's name." She looked at me, then away, her jaw tight. That silence told me everything. I pressed harder. "How long?" Finally she whispered it. "A few months. A few months." While I was walking around with her face stitched into my body, she'd been sneaking around long enough to make another man's name worth etching into hers. The humiliation burned hotter than the tattoo needle ever did. My chest felt heavy, like the ink had turned to lid and was pulling me under. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was the realization that everyone else probably knew before me. Friends, co-workers, maybe even strangers who had seen her thigh when her shorts rode up. They all saw what I refused to. They all knew the joke I was living in. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, the tattoo on my chest throbbing like it was mocking me. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured him tracing his fingers over his name on her skin while I was at home. believing her lies. And here's the kicker, she didn't even apologize. Not really. The next day when I tried to bring it up again, she shrugged. It's just a tattoo, it doesn't mean anything. I laughed. Bitter, hollow. It means everything. Ink is forever. That's why I did this for you. I tapped my chest, tears stinging my eyes. But you carved him into yourself, while you knew I was carving you into me. She rolled her eyes, like I was being dramatic. That's when I realized I was dealing with someone who didn't value permanence, who didn't understand loyalty, someone who liked the thrill of being claimed, but not the responsibility of claiming someone back. That's where I'll leave part 1. The discovery, the moment I realized the woman I thought was my forever had already signed herself away to someone else right there on her skin, while I was still carrying her over my heart. Because what came next wasn't just anger, it was planning, confrontation, and a choice about whether I'd let this tattoo define me, or whether I'd turn it into the reminder that saved me. The night I found out about that tattoo on her thigh, I thought the shame would kill me, but the morning after, something inside me hardened. You know that point where pain stops breaking you down and starts building a wall instead? That's where I was. I looked in the mirror, saw her face on my chest staring back at me, and instead of feeling love, I felt fury, not just at her, at myself, for letting someone dig that deep into me without making sure she deserved it. She left the apartment that morning like nothing had happened, hair tied back, sunglasses on. A casual "I'll see you later" tossed over her shoulder like we hadn't detonated our entire relationship the night before. That's when I knew she had no fear of consequences. And people who don't fear consequences, they test how much they can get away with. So I decided to give her consequences. I didn't go looking for him, at least not right away. But in a small town, names inked on thighs don't stay secrets long. A buddy of mine from the gym spotted her at a diner a few weeks back, sitting in a booth with him, not holding hands, not sneaking glances. No, they were bold, laughing out loud, leaning into each other like they didn't care who saw. My friend texted me, "Is this the guy?" and sent a blurry photo. The letters on her thigh peeked just beneath the hem of her shorts. That was enough. The next day I walked into the same diner at lunch. I didn't go there to fight. I went there to look him in the eye. Man to man. He was sitting at the counter, sipping a Coke like he owned the place. She wasn't there, just him. I slid onto the stool next to him. He glanced over, smirked. "You must be the guy with her face on his chest." That stopped me. Not because it wasn't true, but because of how casually he said it, like my devotion was just another story they joked about in bed. I leaned in close enough for him to hear me over the clatter of plate. "And you're the guy who thought branding his name on her thigh would make him a king. Tell me, how's it feel knowing the whole neighborhood thinks you're a clown?" His jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. He knew, deep down he knew he wasn't a prize. He was just the temporary thrill she chose when she wanted to feel powerful. I left him sitting there staring into his Coke with the weight of that truth hanging over him. But she wasn't done testing me. That night she came home late, smelling like his cologne, and when I confronted her, she snapped. "Why do you care so much about a tattoo? It's just ink. You're acting like it changes anything." That's when I lost it. I tore my shirt open, exposing her face inked over my heart. It does change everything, because when I look in the mirror, I see the woman I thought I'd spend my life with, and when you look at your thigh, you see the man you were cheating with. Don't tell me it doesn't matter. For the first time I saw guilt flicker across her eye, but it wasn't enough. It never would be, because guilt without change is just manipulation.
I kicked her out that night.
Bag after bag of her clothes, shoved into the hallway. She screamed. She cried. She begged. But I didn't budge. Neighbors peeked through their doors watching the spectacle, and I didn't care. Let them see. Let them all know the truth. The days that followed were brutal. I had to live with her face staring back at me every time I pulled off my shirt. At the gym, in the shower, even just lying in bed. It was always there. A ghost burned into my skin. I thought about covering it up, thought about laser removal, but something stopped me. That tattoo became my scar. My reminder, not of her but of me, of the man I was when I believed in forever without hesitation, and of the man I became when I learned forever doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. Funny thing is, once people knew the story, once word spread about her tattoo versus mine, The sympathy started rolling in. Friends who had stayed quiet finally admitted they'd seen her out with him. Car workers gave me nods of respect, like I'd survived a war. Even strangers at the gym who noticed the ink on my chest would sometimes ask, "What's the story?" And I'd tell them, not because I wanted pity, but because I wanted the truth out in the open. Shame only has power when you hide it. Months passed. I rebuilt, slowly, new routines, new faces, even new dates, but I never hid the tattoo. I never covered it. I let it sit there, front and center, because the story behind it was no longer about her. It was about resilience, about how even when someone brands betrayal onto your life, you can wear it and keep moving. And here's the part that makes it almost poetic. One night, nearly a year later, I ran into her again, not in some dramatic setting, not in his arms. She was alone, and she was wearing shorts. The ink on her thigh was faded, stretched, ugly. His name looked less like devotion and more like graffiti. When she caught me looking, she tugged at the hem, self-consciously, for the first time ashamed of what she had once flaunted. She whispered, "I regret it." I smiled, but not the way I used to. This smile was cold, final. Because your mistake made me stronger. And I walked away. So yes, I got her face tattooed over my chest, and she carved another man's name into her thigh. But the story doesn't end with shame. It ends with me realizing that ink doesn't define me. My choices do, and I chose to rise from it, scar and all. Because sometimes the tattoos you regret aren't the ones on your skin. They're the ones you let people leave on your soul, and I'll never let anyone write their lies on mine again.